Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans. We have our preview right here for Week 8 of CFL action. If you're wondering why I'm not here, we discussed it in the last video, but I am recording this out of town. I'm in Thunder Bay, Ontario right now, actually at my auntie's house, and, thank you to her for being able to allow me to use this room to record. I don't have my mic with me, so hopefully this microphone quality will be acceptable to you all. If it isn't, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Once I get back home in Winnipeg, which we should for the next video that we got, it will go all back to normal in that sense. But we got 4 games coming up and a lot of news regarding a lot of these games and a lot of interesting matchups. So, Rick, are you ready to get into it?
I'm ready to get into it.
All right. Well, before we get into it, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little notification bell. It helps out a ton. If you could do that, it would mean the world to us. So we're going to get into the first game of the week, which is going to be on the Thursday. This will be at 7:30 Eastern, I believe, right? This is 7:30 Eastern?
Yes.
So this game is at? Yeah. And this will be the Saskatchewan Roughriders taking on the Montreal Alouettes over in Montreal. Now, this will be an interesting game as neither team have their starting quarterbacks in, as this will be a Caleb Evans versus Shea Patterson matchup, which, in my opinion, very much favors Shea Patterson. I think he is the superior backup quarterback here. And Montreal kind of cracked a little bit without Fajardo, with Toronto being able to pick up the win against them. Montreal getting a much-needed bye week after a really, really stellar performance by this team to start the season. Both teams going into this game 5-1, so one of these two teams is going to come out with their second loss of the season. Rick, I'm throwing it over to you.
Keep in mind, AJ Ouellette and Keon Schaefer-Baker will both be out as well.
So that is 2 big losses there for Saskatchewan. One thing that will be important to keep in mind on the receiving core, Oju with a big game last week against Winnipeg, over 100 receiving yards for him. So he was able to step up to the plate. MLS, to me, has seemed almost like a little bit of a Drew Wolotarski in the sense of no game where he's really just completely exploded with all these yards, but just being a really good, reliable receiver that's able to get you that first down when you need it. And MLS has played like that, and that is going to be something that's very useful against a team like the Alouettes. Now, what are some of the injuries on the Alouettes side of things? Because I know they had some injuries as well.
So the only ones that I can see is Keon Julian Grant is doubtful. He did not practice all week. And Tyrell Richards is out. So that's only the 3.
Okay.
So Marc-Antoine Duquette will be starting.
Duquette? I thought
it will
be
playing.
Decoy. Or is there a T?
No.
Or am I confusing with someone else?
It's Dequoy.
Oh, Decoy. Okay. Because you said Duquette, and I'm like, where's the T?
So the other thing is, so here's my thing about Ajo, is every time someone's had a big game, they could not follow it up. Pimple couldn't. Wilson couldn't. Yep. Is he going to have a big game? You never know.
Yep. No, that's a very good point.
And Caleb Evans is the type of person who I think can probably throw maybe 15 yards as his max. I've never seen him throw a long bomb. So you can bet you that Jason Moss will have some type of routine for him this week where they're going to be throwing some short yardage plays.
Yeah. I expect I think we're going to see a lot of throws into the flats here for Montreal in this game. I think Fletcher is going to be expected to have a big game this week. I wouldn't be surprised if they even have some throws into the flats with like an extra block, where essentially the receiver, they're going to run a normal throwing play with the knowledge that they are actually throwing into the flats. So some of those routes are just to get some of those defenders out of there. But I expect also some of those routes are actually going to be to put themselves into positions to then block upfield once maybe a guy like Speaker or Rambo or Philpott or even Fletcher himself in the flats gets... Actually, it would most likely be Fletcher himself, silly me. So I expect to see probably a lot of all-purpose yards coming out of Fletcher this week.
Don't forget, over the weekend they did sign Nathaniel Bahar that used to play for the Redblacks last season. So don't forget that they just signed him over the weekend as well.
Yeah. So there's that, and then on the kicking side, both of them have been all right. Because I'm just trying to think here. Why am I blanking on the guy's name? It was for Montreal. Why am I blanking on his name? Maltos.
For which?
Maltos. He's been okay in his last game. He went 1 for 2 with his longest though, and so his field goal that he did hit was 50 yards though. So credit to him for that. And then obviously Brett Lothar has been he's always been a great kicker, and so no concerns from him. But I think the real question going into this game is, with all the injuries, who is favored here? And so I'm going to give my take, and then I'll give it over to you. Sound good, Rick?
Sounds like a plan.
I think this actually favors Saskatchewan. I do think that Montreal, overall, they have a lot of injuries that do hurt them, but I think that Saskatchewan has a lot of injuries that do hurt them, with Schaefer Baker out, with Ouellette out. But to me, that injury to Fajardo completely changes the game for Montreal, as shown by the Toronto Argonauts in their last game. Whereas with Saskatchewan, even though obviously it has not been as strong under Shea Patterson as it has over Trevor Harris, they have been able to be very successful even with Shea Patterson. Big win last week over Winnipeg, and even in just some performances before that, he had shown to be definitely consistent enough to keep this team keep this team's head above water until Trevor Harris is back. So I think because of that, I think the Saskatchewan Roughriders are going to walk away with the victory in this game.
I just think that with Keon Schaefer-Baker gone, AJ Ouellette gone, apparently Hickson is supposed to be starting. I haven't seen really too much from Hickson. I mean, you still have Phil Pott, you have Speaker, you have...
That's true. My question isn't on the receivers. It's Caleb Evans being able to connect with them. Because all that talent means nothing if Caleb Evans can't get the ball to him.
But here's the thing is, you have the number 1 defense going against the number 2 defense.
Yep.
So this is going to be I want to say
this will be close.
I want to say this will end up being probably like a Saskatchewan-Winnipeg from week 7, where it's just like a 10-point difference.
Where it's just like, field goals the whole night.
Because AJ Ouellette, don't forget, he does rush, he does block too, and they don't have him. So who are they going to have as that big man to block? They don't have... Hickson's not a blocker.
Yeah, so we will have to see. So who you picking?
I'm going with Montreal.
You're going with Montreal? Okay, so already having some opposing picks going into the first game of the week, which will bring us to the second game of the week, which is the Calgary Stampeders versus the Ottawa Redblacks. Both teams coming off a win from last week. One of them a very, very big win, very flamboyant, with some excellent performances, and one of them coming out of this with one of the most boring wins I've ever seen in my life. Calgary has everything going for him. Jake Maier is in form from last game, and I think that this is a huge opportunity for Calgary to make a statement game. And Calgary could really use it, because if we're looking at the standings here, Calgary 2 points ahead of Winnipeg with one less game played. So if Calgary gets a win here, being able to take a 2-point lead over Winnipeg, with the same number of games played, obviously Winnipeg plays later in the weekend, that would just be a big win for Calgary, and creating that separation with the Bombers to keep themselves in third place, with BC and Saskatchewan firmly locked up in first and second, especially if Saskatchewan's able to get the win against Montreal. So I think this is a big opportunity for Calgary, and also an important opportunity for Ottawa. Ottawa with a 2-point lead over the Argonauts right now in the East. Grabbing this win right here would really help keep them above Toronto. Toronto would then have a game the following day against Winnipeg, so that would affect it. So that's kind of the interesting thing about the Friday game and the Saturday game, is that with is that the Stampeders and the Bombers are really close in the standings, and then the Redblacks and the Argonauts are really close in the standings. So depending on the way that this weekend could go, either you could have both East teams or both West teams winning in those two matchups and virtually almost nothing changing, or one winning one winning another and seeing a little bit of fluctuation in the standings there. But overall, if I'm looking, because I don't think this is going to take me too long, I don't see enough proof from Ottawa that they're going to be able to get it done against Calgary with Jake Maier playing some incredible football. And anything they are not able to get with touchdowns, Rene Paredes is probably going to be money with it.
Just keep in mind, this week is week 7, so any of those players that were put on the 6th game... sorry, my bad. Week 8, don't forget any of those players that were placed on the 6th game in week 1 or week 2 can now officially come off of the 6th game this week.
If they are healthy.
So, yeah, if they are healthy. So it will be interesting to see who comes off.
Yep.
But as much as I want to say this, I'm picking Calgary because with us winning last week, we need to try to catch up as much ground as we can, and we cannot have the Redblacks winning this week.
Overall, I don't see. I need to see more from the Redblacks to kind of tell me that they're going to get the win this week. I don't think. No offense to them, I don't think last week's win was an impressive win. Again, Drew Brown not having really the strongest game. And this is a Calgary team that is coming off a big win against BC, so I think they're going to keep the momentum going. Even if it does slow down a bit and this game is closer, I think Calgary's still able to get it done. Which will then bring us into the Saturday game, which is Winnipeg versus Toronto, with two teams in a bit of a strange spot, as Winnipeg losing to Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, a great team, but Winnipeg just really making a few crucial errors that kind of cost them the game when they could have had it, in the sense of that if Caleros doesn't throw that pick, Bombers at bare minimum are in field goal range. We're getting really close for the touchdown though, so that there's very well could have gotten it there. Nick Dembski fumbling the ball in a very critical spot on the field, again well into field goal range. And could have possibly gotten a touchdown there as well. So Winnipeg kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit there and not being able to get it done against Toronto. And Toronto, funny enough, having a little bit of a similar kind of performance, making some crucial errors that the Ticats were able to take advantage of, and the Ticats grabbing their first win of the season. So Winnipeg loses to their rivals. Then Toronto loses to their rivals. And now the two teams that lost to their rivals are playing against one another. And this game will be at BMO Field in Toronto, and I have no idea. I have no idea, Rick. This Bombers team has been so unpredictable for me this year.
While I let you think about that, so you guys did add veteran DB Aaron Grimes to the practice roster.
Yes, I saw that. Good signing.
Toronto did bring back Darius McFadden and Altus Bell.
Yep.
Also, according to the writer for the Argos, David Unger, Adeleke, and Griffin and Mitchell are all pushing to come back off of the 6th game this week.
Yep.
So that's 2 receivers, which Griffin is an offensive lineman. Rashid Bailey did not practice today. Rimpin did not practice today.
Yep.
And there's one other player two other players that I forget who left the game on Saturday injured.
Yep.
But the only way that I see Toronto winning this is if Cameron Dukes has a bounce back game.
Yeah,
or Nick Arbuckle starts.
Yeah, I think this is gonna one thing that will be really clear here is I think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers offensive line is gonna need to have a big game. I think that Toronto's D-line has had games where they've really been able to put some good pressure, even if they're not necessarily always getting those sacks. And actually, it's funny enough that I said that, as we were actually fortunate to have interviews of two of those on the channel. Make sure you guys check that out. An interview with Derek Parrish was out recently, and then there was an earlier one that we had done with Jared Brinkman. Both of those are great and on the channel, so make sure you guys do check that out. However, it's funny I'm bringing that up because they have been a pretty solid, not the best defensive line in the league, but definitely a solid one. And so, going to need a big game out of those front five there for Winnipeg. Being able to give Collaros enough time to pray that his receivers get open, and that he'll be able to connect with them. And I think that's going to be just a massive thing. Is that these Bombers receivers, that they got to get open, they got to be running the routes, and they got to be able to. When Collaros gets that ball to them, they got to be able to lock down on that and hold on to it and just get the yards that they need.
Keep in mind, you guys still have 2 more practices this week.
Yep.
Brian Cole did not practice today.
Yep.
Kyrie Wilson did not practice today. Brandon Alexander did not practice today. Bailey Feltman did not practice today. And, of course, we all know Mr. Running Back, who just because he doesn't practice isn't not necessarily mean anything. He did not practice with a shoulder today either.
Yep, Mr. Brady Oliveira. Yeah, no, there's lots of times that Brady Oliveira doesn't practice. And I don't know if it's maybe just because of the rougher style of game that he plays, because he plays a very contact heavy running back. Just because some are more of a evade contact and try to grab that extra yard, whereas Brady Oliveira just drops his shoulder and tanks right through it. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of times what Brady Oliveira's missing practice is just because he gets beat up a little bit more than the average player and he just needs a little bit extra rest. So, but I'm pretty confident that Brady Oliveira will be back and ready in the Bomber lineup. Is there any kind of update is there any guys coming off the Bomber 6 game, as there were some that kind of went on within the first 2
I'm
weeks
just
of the
looking
season?
at it now. So Bailey Feltman's gone to the 6th game now.
Cap. Do you see any defensive linemen in there? Do you see Lawson, or do you see any receivers?
Mark Carbonneau.
Okay.
Mark Carbonneau, linebacker.
Okay.
Coming off the practice squad.
Okay.
Woody Barron, who played for BC last year that Toronto signed over the weekend, he's going to be starting this week. McFadden's already going into the starting role. Brian Cole, the second for you guys, your linebacker, he's gone to the 6th game.
Anything with Lucky Whitehead from the practice roster?
Nothing from Lucky Whitehead from the practice roster.
Just because that was kind of
keep
a big
in mind
sign for Winnipeg.
Keep in mind, there's still 2 other days this week that things could happen.
That is true. We just for context, we are recording this on at basically 9:00 Eastern on Tuesday, July 23rd. So if by the time this video comes out, stuff has changed, you will know that we obviously didn't know that. So this is I'm just stating when we're recording it for documentation's sake.
But
is there anything else we got there?
I assume that you're going with.
This will be a close game, but this is one of those things I really have no idea. So I'm going with my Bombers.
You go with your Bombers, and I hate to say this, but with McFadden coming back, with Barron coming in, like I said, the only way that Toronto will win this is if Dukes has a better game. If he doesn't have a better game, then I don't see them winning this, but sad to say, I am taking Toronto.
You think Dukes is going to have a bounce-back game?
I honestly, I don't. But, I mean, I have more faith in them than your Bombers, to be honest.
Fair enough. Hey, I've been similar about my feelings on the Ticats. I put a lot of faith in them at the start of the season, and I kind of started to regret it for a bit. So, but who knows? Maybe they'll build that back. But yeah, so I'm putting my faith in the Bombers. I believe in Joe Hendry and the Bombers. I do. I know that now the song's going to be playing it in Rick's head for the rest of tonight, but that's fine. And then we got the Sunday game on July 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, which will be the Hamilton Tiger Cats at Commonwealth Stadium against the Edmonton Elks. Hamilton Tiger Cats showing up with the medal with that big old W on it, showing it to Edmund, being like, you know that's going now? There you go. So, going to be a big game for Edmonton here, as still looking for that first win of the season. And we are at week 8 right now. Edmonton is 0-6. Hamilton with 1-5. These are two teams, despite, Hamilton getting their first win last week, but still both teams starving for points. So,
Carter, you want to know what's going on in Edmonton?
What's going on in Edmonton?
It's musical chairs, because they have brought in 2 new players this week. DeMarcus Christmas and Joshua Haggerty.
Also known as AJ Allen was right when he said that special teams is probably going to be a completely different lineup than what they're watching on film for this game.
Keep in mind, Joshua Haggerty did go to the starting lineup. DeMarcus Christmas is on the practice squad.
Fair enough. So
since Chris Jones has left, they've brought in 2 people, and I'm pretty sure they've cut 6.
Ooh.
So, it's the other way around. They brought in. Oh no!
Either way, that's a big turnaround in like a week and a half, which is what.
So from the 21st, which was Sunday, till today, they brought in 3 people and cut 6.
Yeah.
So,
although, the one thing I will say that is good news for this game is that McLeod Bethel-Thompson, as we were talking about in the last video, was complaining about the amount of time he had off and that he didn't have enough time to rest. You're going to have 9 days here, Mr. McLeod Bethel-Thompson, so I think you'll be doing just fine for this one. So we'll have to see how this affects the Edmonton Elks.
Honestly,
and if Bethel-Thompson can swing all those passes together and grab himself a win.
I honestly don't even think him having those 9 days off is going to make a difference.
Do you want to know the funny thing is?
You agree?
Yes, 100%. 100%. I think this was him being frustrated. I think he was just kind of a bit emotional about his players getting injured, and I think there is some validity to what he said, but I also think a bit of it is this is nothing new. So it is what it is.
Now, the interesting thing is, if we can keep the mentality that we had, the physical, hard-nosed football game that the Ticats know that they can play, like they did last week, and Bo comes out of the gates like his previous Bo 300s and even has a Vernon Adams type week, call me crazy, but if he has like a 400-yard game, he can surpass Adams this week and be first in yards by the end of the week.
Ooh. So big opportunity for Mr. Bo Levi Mitchell.
There is exactly... Well, I take that back. There's 454 yards difference.
So probably won't make up all those. But
he may not be, he may not be ahead of him. He can close the gap, but if he throws more than 2 touchdowns, he'll be leading the league in touchdowns by the end of the week.
Ooh, okay, that is something he could hit in this game. As I think one of the things that I made very clear, Edmonton's defense actually played pretty good last week, but besides that, really hasn't done much of anything. And this is where Hamilton, even despite the amount of times that they've played well and not won, their offense has actually been okay in the sense of Bo Levi Mitchell has been able to throw for 300 plus yards on many different games this year. And then he finally throws under 300 and somehow they get the win. So it's just kind of funny how that works out. But overall, because I don't have a ton to say on this game, I think Hamilton is going to start kind of getting back to a point where they're kind of closing the gap with Ottawa and getting into a better spot in the East. Does that mean they're going to beat every single opponent they come across? No, but they're playing Edmonton this week, so I think they're winning.
The other interesting fact is,
yep,
next week, if he's still out, I think we can beat Caleb Evans next week.
Ooh, that's a bold take. Especially since you said that Montreal's beating Saskatchewan this week.
But again, Shea Patterson hasn't really shown me anything either.
I think he's shown to be a decent, consistent backup.
No, decent.
Much better than Caleb Evans.
But at the same time, have you seen Shea Patterson throw 3 touchdowns? No. You don't have AJ Ouellette either.
But here's the thing. They haven't needed to because of that defense. So it is what it is. We'll get to next week when we get to next week. But Rick, how are you feeling about this week? I think I know exactly where you're going with this.
Oh, I will be picking my team this week.
You'll be taking the Ticats.
Yes, we are taking the Ticats. Also, Carter, I do have a question about the previous game. I don't know if you'll be home or not. Are you guys live streaming the game this week?
The game on Saturday, July 27th. No, we'll still be in Thunder Bay.
Okay, well, those viewers that liked me and Carter's stream last week, I will be streaming on Sunday over on Ticats Talk Network because we will be on the road. So not me personally, but the Ticats will be on the road. So I will be live streaming on Sunday.
There we go. Well, if for some reason there's some sort of change and we're going to live stream out of Thunder Bay, which I highly doubt it because I'll be with family and all this and that. We're not going to be streaming this week, but if you want to check out that game, make sure you guys check that out on Ticats Talk Network. I'll of course have my Bomber coverage of this upcoming game against the Argonauts over on the Nolan Hockey Podcast. Link to both channels in the description below. If you haven't already left a like and subscribed, then what are you doing? I told you to at the start of the video, man. Were you not listening to me? Do you not like me? It's understandable. It is what it is. And Rick has something to say, so say it.
Yes, if you want to see Carter cry and pity and watch his team lose.
Yeah, you want to see Carter cope, go check that out on the Nolan Hockey Podcast.
And if you want to see a madman like Zach, go over to Hockey Nolan Podcast and watch their reactions.
Watch some of the Jets content. There's lots of good stuff over there. We cover all things Winnipeg sports over on the Nolan Hockey Podcast. So
before I let you end this, I'm thinking you're taking Hamilton, right?
Yeah, I'm taking Hamilton.
Okay.
What's our records, by the way?
To be honest, I have to redo it all because for some reason my spreadsheet bit the dust.
Oh no!
So I have to go back.
I'll know what my record is because I have mine in my pick'ems. So I'll know mine I'll know mine at least. So you'll have to go and check yours.
Well, because I know 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago we were even.
Yeah, we're at 14-7?
Something like that.
Okay, so then
it's all right. We can figure this out afterwards, all right?
Yeah.
So make sure you guys you guys like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you guys next time.